Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And it's be a nice, quick and straight to the point lesson, Lord willing. And this is from ZeroHedge.com. So as of late, there's been a lot of talk about sleeper cells. In particular, this message from the U.S. media about Iran activating sleeper cells, which now you start to see how things that have happened in recent history start to make sense, right, from a a narrative standpoint as to how it's easy to set up a situation like this, right, where you would end up in a position like this, whether it's 100% orchestrated or whether it's opening the door for certain things to happen. For what I mean by that is during the Biden administration, right, they had the borders wide open. Anybody could come up in here. And even after they had confirmed that they arrested and apprehended certain foreign nationals who made it very clear that they intended to come in and commit terroristic activities, they still kept it open, right, until until Trump got in there, and that was the whole reason. That was the metaphoric laying or rolling out of the red carpet for Trump to give him something to walk on into office. Okay, and so this, on one scale, right, on one level, this could be the perfect excuse to say, even if they did an inside job, the narrative is there, right? What we're reading right now in this headline is made possible and more believable via the recent events that happened with the whole border crisis and so on. Now, that's one case. The other could be that, they anticipate, you anticipate that, oh, well, if you're going to make adversaries of, Iran and these nations, which they pretty much knew this was coming, and you leave that border open, and even if it's not an inside job, but you anticipate that they would sneak in potential, sleeper cells, knowing how far positioned they are, and they're lacking in the effective weapons to reach American soil, then one of their best ways would be from the actual land of Babylon. Then you can still leave your borders open, knowing that in the future you can come back and call upon this situation and use it to further whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Right? These are just examples I'm throwing out there. Nonetheless, here we are today, right? And this is not what we're hearing about. So I'm not going to be surprised, if in the near future something does go down. Which in this article it does highlight a few possible things, right? You have so-called lone wolf attacks, as they call, and then the article also mentions simultaneous, coordinated attacks. All right. Now, recently, you've had, within the past couple of days, you had an incident with two Muslims that threw what was supposed to be an explosive device into a crowd of anti-Muslim protesters downtown in Manhattan. They said that the devices did not detonate. Okay, but they're charging them as like a terroristic crime. And then recently, you've had a lot of bomb threats, right, from planes to just suspicious items left around to all of these things. So these are all looking like precursors to some major event or events where this isn't going to be something that you can just sweep under the rug because of the cause, right? You're already at war with a foreign nation, and then you blame them, whether they actually do it or you just do it and pin it on them, for a homeland attack. Remember what happened with Pearl Harbor. They got hit over at that harbor, and they went and dropped a freaking atomic bomb on their ass. Okay, or just to put it plainly, they went and dropped bombs on them. That was their retaliation. Okay, so this is all justification for on many fronts, not just retaliation on a escalated level, in terms of war, but also in terms of locking down on the actual society, right, within, and not just here, because as we read in the article, it'll go into how this is something that's, they're not saying it's just in America, right, but in other countries as well. So anyway, it says Iran sleeper cells activated, threatened to eliminate Trump. U.S. intelligence intercepts Iran. U.S. intelligence intercepts Iran. Reveal Iran may be triggering covert operatives abroad, as Tehran issues direct warnings to President Trump following the airstrike death of its former supreme leader. U.S. intelligence has intercepted an encrypted message. Now, if you look at the wording that they're using over here, it's like based on assumptions, right? So it says here, U.S. intelligence has intercepted an encrypted message from Iran that appears to be an operational trigger for sleeper cells embedded in foreign countries, raising alarms about potential attacks. So, depending on how exactly they want to do something with this, they could go, on a massive scale and have, just like you had, about 6 years ago now, right? This is some years ago, you had the whole lockdowns, and it was like, oh, this thing has spread to this country and it's spread to that country, and now this country's locked down, now this country's locked down, and it was a multinational situation. They could do that with something like this, and they can have specific countries and certain main cities there that are targeted, on a wide scale, and use that to bring about a new phase in different things, because that's definitely going to affect markets as well. Okay, because that's a whole nother level of escalation, at least as they're going to see it as in this war. So it says here, this development comes amid ongoing conflict with Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba, if I'm saying that right. I'm just going to call him by his last name, Khamenei, facing threats from multiple fronts after his father's death in a U.S.-Israeli airstrike. So it says, actually, let me just play this real quick. And I put a clip of it on my channel in the shorts, but I'll play it again for those who haven't seen it.
Of its operation, showcasing its high mobility artillery rocket systems, which provide unrivaled deep strike capability. Israel and the U.S. continuing to strike targets in Iran. Meantime, an alarming report of threats outside Iran. ABC News reports Iran may be activating sleeper cells. Quote, the U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. If true, further illustrating Secretary of State Marco Rubio's point, we are fighting a terrorist government.
The United States is currently engaged in an operation targeting one of the world's leading.
So if you're not familiar with what a sleeper cell is, I'm going to type it in here and you can see what it is. Sleeper cell definition. So it says here, a secretive group of spies or terrorist agents that remain inactive with a target population until ordered to act. So what's a scenario? A scenario is Iran says, hey, you are like some specialized top agents. Your job is to do, this is your mission, do X, Y, and Z. And your job is to go and infiltrate this foreign country over here. You're to lay low, go in and blend in with the population, right? Be like a janitor or, a bus driver or, just some low McDonald's worker, something. And just lay low until you get orders on what to do, right? Or when to go and do what you got to do, because they already know what their mission is. So all they really wait for is that trigger, which is some form of communication that lets them know, okay, now go and do what you got to do. So they're positioned in different, areas, different cities, different major areas. And then at the right time, or when they receive their instructions, they go ahead and do what it is they were instructed to do. That's what a sleeper cell is. So what they're saying here is there are some that are already in different Western countries, and they've now been given, their trigger to go ahead and do whatever it is that they've been trained or instructed to do. And that's what they're raising an alarm about here, about potential attacks. So it says here, the intercepted communication reported by ABC News was flagged shortly after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's death on February 28th. Analysts believe it originated in Iran and was directed at clandestine recipients using passcodes with characteristics suggesting it was meant for operatives outside the country. So you can see the wording here is not definite. All right, it's not definitive. It is inferred, right? They believe it originated in Iran, right? The characteristics suggest that it's meant for operatives. So because everybody's in a heightened sense of alertness, and there's a heightened sense of security, that's why they take these so seriously. All right. It says the alert describes the signal as resembling historical methods used to activate covert assets without internet reliance. The signals could be intended to activate or provide. Now, I was watching a a TV show, right, where there was something similar, where they sent a spy into a foreign country, and the way that they would receive their instructions were through radio. So what they would do is they would, every day at a certain time, the radio station, there's, because radio stations, there's different radio stations, right? So there would be one particular radio station that would feign themselves. It would be like the voice of a woman, and it would be as though she's teaching, like it's like a radio station where they teach students or whatever, and she's listing like the answers for the answer key for a homework assignment, right? So she'll say, oh, so today's homework assignment, the answers to question 1 was this, then to question 2 was this, question 3 was this. And the agent who was in the foreign country would tune in on the radio every time to that channel at a specific time and listen to that. And they knew how to interpret that, right? So obviously it wasn't about any homework questions and answers, but that was all code. Like how you have Morse code, that was all code that they could translate, and that would tell them, okay, don't do anything yet, wait, do this, don't do that, that kind of thing. So there's many ways without literally receiving like some text message from a foreign country that says, okay, go in and do this. That's easy trackable. Anyway, continuing on, it says these signals could be intended to activate or provide instructions to pre-positioned sleeper assets operating outside the originating country, the alert stated. Concerns are heightened because you can see that clearly there's a lot that these so-called global elites are trying to accomplish this year, right? There's a lot that they're trying to do. And in order to push forward and forward and forward inside of their agenda, right, and push it forward, they need the distraction and the cover of destruction. They need that because destruction brings fear. Fear brings control, okay? And they're able to push and further certain narratives that they can use to, as you would say, or as people say, kill two birds with one stone. In this case, they're not trying to kill two birds. They're trying to do a lot more than that. All right, so you throw in there population reduction, right? You throw in there economic collapse, right? You throw in there the triggering of a world war. All of these things are part of their goals, but their goals are not the war alone. It's what happens after. It's the state of the world being transformed through these destructive events. That is what they want, to be able to change the world through this chaos, because the chaos destroys the old order and allows them to model it further in the way that they want. Okay. Concerns are heightened by reports of Iranian-linked operatives using routes like Venezuela to enter Western nations, potentially establishing networks near the U.S. Security experts warn of threats from both organized cells and lone actors. Former DHS advisor Charles Marino told the Daily Mail that simultaneous attacks by 10 to 20 people in a cell are possible. Simultaneous is like at the same time. So something is happening in New York, something is happening in Chicago, something is happening in Washington, something is happening in Texas. Like all this is like you while you're hearing, oh, something went on over here. Oh, the same thing happened over. Oh, no, that kind of thing. It says here, and you know at that point they're locking it down, locking everything down. Okay. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that. They usually tend to do that when things, like right now, the world is looking at the U.S. as a folly. Like, is the skirt is being lifted. The whole world is looking at this place like, yo, you went and botched, you went and messed up big time. And they're trying to save face. They're trying their hardest to push out, propaganda and so on. But eventually, you need to throw in that smoke grenade, right? So that you can you can try to come at it from a different angle. And that's why they're still going, knowing that this is affecting global economies, and they're still going. And so it wouldn't be shocking if they were to do something major on the basis of the sleeper cells being activated as a different front where people can look there instead and not be solely focused on the losses that they are facing over there trying to go against Iran. So it says here, where are we at? Right, it says are possible targeting soft spots like concerts or sporting events, the upcoming World Cup, a national special security event is a particular worry. So, especially at this time, you also have to apply a certain level of wisdom and discernment and being circumspect, right? Like knowing the things that are going on and the things that are being said, whether right the whatever ends up happening is indeed or organic and orchestrated by Iran, or it's a false event. That when I say a false event, I don't mean the event itself necessarily. I mean the reason that they give for it happening. But whatever they end up doing, if it's a major thing, you're gonna feel that. So keep that in mind that whether they're using a false narrative or a true narrative, the actions they're trying to take will feel very real. So you might want to limit your outing to these populated and crowded areas. It's a part of being prudent and looking well into your goings and being circumspect because of the signs of the times. Like now isn't the time to be on that type of time. Oh, I'm trying to be outside. I'm trying to go here. I'm trying to do this and this and that, because you may be endangering yourself, not realizing that at any point in time, they can trigger something. And now look at your ass. Should have been home, but instead you wanted to go out here and do this, that, and the third. And now look at you getting all caught up. Now we know that, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? The Lord is going to protect who he's going to protect, but you don't want to tempt the Lord's hand, right? You want to use wisdom because he gave us that also as a covering. So you sit back and think, is it really wise right now that they're saying that these are possible places that they will target for me to go and put myself in a situation like that in the midst of where we're at right now? We're in the times of like any moment something can happen. So being alert, and being circumspect means thinking twice about going certain places that you don't need to be. Tensions escalated further with Iran's defiant response to Trump's comments on the new supreme leader. Trump stated on Fox that Khamenei, which I'm just going by the last name here, would be unable to live in peace, and this is I believe his son. And expressed the original Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's son. It says, and expressed dissatisfaction with the appointment, warning Iran to brace for death, fire, and fury if it shuts the Strait of Hormuz. Iran said, look, well, it's going to say it. Iran security chief Ali Larijani dismissed these as empty threats, adding, even those greater than you could not eliminate the Iranian nation. Take care of yourself not to be eliminated. And that's a threat that they're not taking lightly. A lot of people are not taking that lightly. And they're saying, look, there's a reason why they're making statements like that. So you got to watch out. they've this strategy they're using. There could be a whole lot more to it than you even think, right? Remember, they didn't forget what Trump did when he took out Qasem Soleimani. They didn't forget that. So they already knew, okay, what kind of devil we're dealing with, and put preparations in place. And then the following goes into, an example here, right, where you had, it says Iran plotter tells FBI Tehran was behind Butler Trump assassination attempt. So if they've already, according to this, tried it once, right, then you know that especially now with this escalation, they're gonna do it again. Do it again. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak." Now, all these things we're seeing happening, they all tie in one way, shape, or form to the vision that was seen by the prophets of old. That's why we can go to many different precepts and tie them into these current events, because they were seen of old by the prophets and written down and prophesied about, and now we're seeing them start to manifest, right? So we're in the appointed time. It says, "But at the end it shall speak," meaning that it's going to come to pass. It's going to come into full effect and not lie. And what that means is these visions and these prophecies are accurate. Okay, they're going to happen exactly as they were foretold and foreseen. Though it tarry, wait for it. Tarry, when something tarries, it's like it's delayed, right? Or it seems like it's dragging its feet. But as it says, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And that's why sometimes you see these events that are taking place, and it looks like prophecies coming in clusters, right? It's like, oh, this and then that and then this and then this. You're looking at it on many fronts, and you're like, because once the it's like a dam that breaks, the water is going to completely flood the area full force. It's not gonna slow. It's not gonna be like a crack here and then a crack there. Once it breaks, that's it. It's a flood. Okay. And so, as it says, it will not tarry. So once the Lord says it's the final escalation, that final catalyst, it's going to drive the rest of these prophecies right in line. Okay. And I have a few more here. These are just quick ones from X, right? It says here, now Trump, and he said this, right? "We may cut off trade with Spain." Let's play that.
Cooperating with the United States? Spain. No, they're not. I think they're not cooperating at all. Spain, I think they've been very bad. Very bad. Not good at all. We may cut off trade with Spain.
You guys all trade with them?
I don't know what Spain's doing. They've been very bad to NATO. They get protected. They don't want to pay their fair share. And they've been that way for many years, actually.
Cooperating with the United States?
So you can see that this energy, right, that he's pushing, this is the kind of energy that pushes those allies away. This is the kind of energy that makes them start to sit back and think, whose side should I really be on? If a war that was started by the US and Israel is escalating, and this is the energy that they're coming with, then I'm not so sure, like if you're Spain, I'm not so sure if I stay in a so-called alliance with them, I will even be protected. Because if he's talking about cutting off trade with Spain, which is supposed to be an ally with them, and Spain is saying, because we don't want to be a part of this war, then guess what? NATO Article 5 would still include you in this war, except you're now in a war that you didn't want to be in, started by a nation that is treating you as less than an ally. What's the benefit over there? So you can start to see how current events, like one thing leading to another, one escalation here, one trigger over here, right? A couple words exchanged over here, a couple actions taken over here, all start to paint the picture of prophecy, right? Revelation, the 17th chapter. You can start to see, well, how would the allies of America possibly turn on her? Like, what? That sounds like a crazy plot twist. Yeah, it is a plot twist, but it's going to happen. So when we see this kind of talk, it's not, oh, they'll get over it, and no. This isn't going to be the way things turn out this time around isn't going to be something you can reason about just with logic. Oh, well, historically this happened, and usually when this happens, that happens. And so I think this is going to happen according to prophecy. Okay? And your logic does not triumph prophecy. All right? Prophecy can take bends, turns, U-turns, 180s, 360s, 470s, whatever you want to call it. But it'll still land at the point where it has been set to land at. And you can't reason about that. If you shoot an arrow and prophecy says it's going to come back in reverse, logic will tell you otherwise. Logic will tell you, no, there's no way. An arrow it's going to go in the direction it's going to go in. There's no way it's going to turn around. And because, gravity is going to pull it down, and, the momentum that is built from the tension in the string. And when you release it, it ain't going to work. And that's why the scriptures say that the spiritual things are foolishness to a carnal man, because they're spiritually discerned. So you got to take the carnal logic out your mind when it comes to looking at these events and understanding prophecy. Okay, and that's why we look at it through the lens of faith, and then everything makes sense. It says here, Trump on withdrawing from Iran. I'll just read it. We're not finished yet, right? So basically, when they asked him, matter of fact, let me play it. Let's go back. I'm already here.
Mr. President, are you willing to withdraw the U.S. from Iran, even if they have not turned over and allowed the U.S. to seize their remaining?
I'm not going to answer that, but we have hit them harder than virtually any country in history has been hit, and we're not finished yet.
We're not finished yet, and the $1 million question that people keep asking is, what's more? Like, what else are you trying to do? Right? Like, what exactly is it that you're trying to do? Because you feel that everything you said you were trying to do, and yet you're still there. And you know that those things are not, you can't accomplish those things. So you said, okay, you're going to take out the Ayatollah and then cause a regime change. Clearly, that's not what happened. So now you're taking a hard L. And Iran said they're ready to keep going. They're ready to drive up oil prices to $200 a barrel. Is that what the U.S. wants? So when they say we're not finished, what more are you trying to do? And that's what people keep asking, and they're not getting a direct answer to. And the reason they're not getting a direct answer to is because what they want to do, if they were to say it, the world will look at them like, yo, you're bugging. Okay? And there's been talks about, like, did the U.S. enter this war to lose? Sometimes you gain by loss, right? Because if you go in here and through your actions, you've triggered an economic collapse, a world economic collapse. That's a win for whoever your what do they call those people? Handlers, whoever your handlers are. Because they've been wanting an economic collapse for God knows how long. That's what makes room and makes way for them to introduce their new system. You see? So as all these things go on, you got to look at, okay, how is this affecting things economic wise? How is this affecting things monetarily wise? And what are they doing on that front? One more, right? It says here, and I'm just going to read the headline. Ex-gold commodity king warns no policy response can meaningfully reverse oil prices. So I lied. I'm going to read just a little bit more than the headline. It says here, there is no policy response that will stop this ascent in crude in the near term, warns Goldman's former head of commodity research. And he says here, I'm going to just jump down to the oil part. Crude's ascent, meaning the prices of crude oil going up, is unstoppable in the near term. No effective policy response, examples from governments, SPR releasing their strategic reserves and all of that, or other interventions can halt or meaningfully reverse the upward trajectory of oil prices while the Strait of Hormuz remains disrupted or blocked. So while the markets try to be as optimistic as they can when they hear, oh, we're going to release strategic reserves, oh, we're going to create a new refinery, oh, we're going to do this, the damage that's being caused is a lot worse than the mitigation measures can try to fix. Now, here it says, just going down, it says this is severe supply chain risk and disruptions. A prolonged closure of the strait, which carries 18.5 million, looks like barrels per day of oil, plus gas, fertilizers, and metals, would represent massive lost flows. Example, 31 days, so averagely like about a month, could equate to over 575 million barrels stopped. This is far exceeding the entire U.S. strategic petroleum reserve, which is about 411 to 415 million barrels historically. So in 1 month, okay, the amount lost, if the U.S. was to release their strategic reserves, that and they were to go all out, in about a month, you're done. Right? If the Strait was to say remain closed and halt this 575 million barrels. All right, it says here 411 to 415 barrels historically, with no major releases confirmed recently. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm gonna end it here. But as you can see, all these things are happening, and they're merging, right, in terms of the damaging effects. But it's all to the transformation of this old world into the new phase, into the next phase of prophecy, right? And it's all in the control of Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai. So keep watching, right? Keep praying, and let's see how the Lord, how the Lord does this. Anyway, Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.